Like my mom, I will literally walk down, right past her in the living room, and she's sitting down. She's like, "Oh my god, you scared me," and I'm like, "I'm wearing flip flops. Can't you hear my flip flops?" Like every single time she scares me, or that's what she said. Like I scare her. It's like there are
That's
times though
hilarious.
where she's like super quiet and she's coming in through the backyard, and I'm in the kitchen, and I think I hear something, and then I see her come out of the darkness. I'm like, oh my god, you scared me. So I get her feelings.
Yeah.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to an episode of The Box Cutter, where we take apart an episode of Disney's Out of the Box and see if it still holds up. My name is Daniel, and my co host for today is eligibility specialist for the Department of Social Services, a great friend of mine, and an even better friend of my sister. So, Jose, how are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good, Daniel. Hanging in there. How are you?
I'm doing well. We're having kind of another heat wave. That's kind of the thing with California. Either it's not a heat wave day or it's a heat wave day.
Right.
You work for the Department of Social Services as an eligibility technician. Um, what is that exactly like? What are your responsibilities with that job?
So my responsibilities at that job include interviewing the public that applies for a certain benefit, like
Mm-hmm.
medical benefits, uh, the food and nutritional program we have,
Mm-hmm.
um, uh, and things like that. So what they do is they of course apply. My job duties include interviewing them, looking over their applications, and essentially processing their application, which includes approving or denying of their benefits requested.
And is there like a checklist of things that you look for when they answer your questions, or is it just like based on, or is it like subjective?
It depends on case to case, but usually it just depends on their household structure and
Mm-hmm.
their income. Most of the programs that are offered by the county or by the state do have certain income requirements. So that's pretty much it. I of course discuss certain things with them, answer certain
Mm-hmm.
questions, but usually it just comes down to any income or property that they may have in their household structures.
Mm-hmm. Right. And that's kind of important these days with what's going on in the world right now with COVID, and a lot of people who probably work in the morning, they aren't able to drop their kids off at school, and so they're kind of like have their hands tied at home and they're not able to work. So it's probably a great benefit that we have things like this to help those who are probably in a bind right now with everything going on.
Absolutely, yeah. Especially as you said, families that have children who can't work or staying home to work, and their children are having to take their classes online and things like that, or loss of income. A lot of households now are applying for the benefits, and obviously they qualify due to the loss of income. So it's great that the department is staying busy, obviously, through this, and is able to help those families in need.
Hmm. I mean, I'm kind of where I work. We are essentially servicing homeless students as well as students without access to internet and whose parents are essential workers. We're basically emulating like school where we have a limited amount of spots for students, and uh, it'll be kind of like school where they come in the morning and we make sure that they're healthy and they're wearing masks, take their temperature, and then by the time like real school ends, their parents pick them up.
Oh, great, great. And I'm sure you all will be implementing the or enforcing the masks and social distancing.
Yeah, just because that's what's required, and just so that way, people can, the students can stay healthy, and they're able to come every day, so that way they can get caught up with their schoolwork, because a lot of them just aren't able to, with their limited resources, or they're homeless and such.
Absolutely, that's great. Well, hopefully that does work out.
How have you prevented yourself from going crazy with all this, staying inside and social distancing?
Well, I am working from home. I have been
Mm-hmm.
working from home since I want to say first week of April. Now, although the shutdown technically happened, I want to say as of the 16th or 17th of March,
Right.
it did take the department, some additional time to actually plan, and be able to give us, resources or equipment to be able to work from home. So
Mm-hmm.
I want to say that I worked for approximately 2 to 3 weeks after the shutdown in office.
Mm-hmm.
And as of then, we have been able to transition to work from home. Um, I have just been trying to just do the keep my routine essentially,
Yeah.
but just of course do everything at home, or distract myself from the fact that I'm only leaving, to do certain things like grocery shopping and things. But I do try to work out at home. I try to
Mm-hmm.
read. I do try to write, which were things that I was already doing pre quarantine. Um,
I'm honestly jealous of people who read as a hobby, because I've tried it and it's just not my thing. But it's like there's just so many good books out there that people say, oh, it's so good and it'll change your life. But I'm more of like, I can't imagine things. I have to like see it on the page,
yeah.
or it's like I keep reading the same page 5 times, and it's like it takes too long for me. So
Yeah,
I
I understand. And I'm actually exactly the same. I feel like it has to be a book that I'm genuinely interested in, or, a certain topic, or something that somebody has recommended to me based on, a conversation we might have had, or something that, that they want me to just learn or look at. But
mm-hmm.
I'm actually exactly the same. I could take a book and read it in a week if I want to, or I'll be reading the same page as you said 5 times and maybe not even finish the book. So it just has to be something that I'm actually interested in to be able to read through.
Yeah, so I mean, like people say they're jealous sometimes of the thing that you like sew, or like I can make things, but it's like I'm genuinely jealous of people who can read as a hobby, because it's like it's just something that I wish I could get into, but I just really I can't, and it's like an honest envious thing that I have. And I always say it to people that say that they like to read it. I always say, you know what? I am so jealous that you like to read. So,
I mean, I could say I feel the same thing about you sewing. I wish that I had a sewing machine, and I wish that I knew how to make all the awesome things that you can make. I feel exactly the same.
well,
But I feel like everybody kind of has like their own thing, and I think it's cool that you're probably the only person I know that does that. So that's even more awesome, because it's not like that's something that you genuinely enjoy doing. It's not like anybody around you is like influencing you to do it. You kind of just picked it up and did it. So I think that's cool.
I appreciate that. So, are you a
Yeah,
beach
and so
person?
I am, and I was just going to say that I love the beach. I love to be at the beach, and I feel that in this specific episode, they did such a great job, bringing the beach to the box, because I watched it and I'm like, oh my god, I could, it totally felt like you
Yeah,
could be there. So
yeah,
it was actually kind of nice.
yeah. It's one of those shows that tries to make you practice your imagination, exercises your imagination skill.
Absolutely.
So the episode starts with Tony is already in the box, and he's playing with his new ocean drum. And he explains that it may be called a drum, but it doesn't need to be hit to make a sound. But you can also hit it to make a sound, is what he could have said. He didn't say it.
Yeah.
So the way it works is he slowly tilts it around in circular motion. They're back and forth, and there are little beads inside. And the beads just they rub against the bottom of the ocean drum, and they make a wave sound. So he's showing off like how it sounds, and then he has the viewer, close their eyes and pretend they're at the beach. That's
Yeah,
what.
and it does actually sound like waves. So, you know.
So he's closing his eyes and he's imagining the waves, and Vivian and the kids come in to notice that he's not paying attention and he has his eyes closed. So they all sneak up on him, and he opens his eyes to be scared by them. I would be so upset to be like, I don't like to be surprised. I don't. When people like catch me off guard, I get mad because I'm like, why would you do that? Do you like being surprised?
It depends, but I'm leaning more towards no. I like to be in the know, and when things catch me off guard like that, I try to not let it bother me. But yeah, I can't say I really like surprises, to be honest.
So the kids then tell him that they want to see what he was doing. So he shows off his ocean drum. Um, and so he's playing it, and he has the kids guess what sound it makes. And Nicholas figures out it sounds like the ocean. And he explains to them that, yeah, it's called an ocean drum. So Vivian gives the kids the idea of making an ocean in the clubhouse. So Vivian finds a blue bedsheet, and with Dane's help, they each take one end and make some waves. And Vivian then asks if the cool water makes them want to dive in.
It's music time!
So this song, it's called Everybody Do the Swim. And it's got that very beach pop, like 50 beach pop type of sound. Like the very stereotypical sound, like music that you hear whenever you see like a beach scene in a movie or like in a cartoon.
Yeah, and which it did. That was the first thing that I noticed as soon as the beat drops. I think to myself, okay, this is definitely one of those vintage or old school beats or music that you would hear, as you said, like in a movie or a commercial. So it did make it a little bit more, beachy.
After that song, Viv suggests, since they have an ocean, why not make a beach? And so Nicholas grabs a white bed sheet and says, oh, this can be the sand. And after they spread it out, Viv then suggests they all take off their shoes and pretend they're in the sand. And she follows it up by saying the sand is super hot, which everyone hops around. And I remember once you've felt really hot, burning, first degree burn sand, you never have that feeling, or you never forget that feeling.
Absolutely, I agree. The last time I went to the beach, I want to say, it was in the hundreds, and I vividly remember the feeling of my burning feet. So I agree with that.
It's awful. I mean, like, what I used to do was I used to just dig my feet into the undersand and then drag my feet across the sand so that way they don't get burned.
I don't think I've ever thought of that. That's actually a great idea.
So they're hopping around, and then she makes pretend that the sand by the ocean is nice and cool, so they all run over to the edge where the sand meets the ocean. And yeah, I know that feeling too, where it's so relaxing, just like the smoothness of the water mixing with the sand. It's not like mud. it's just like I don't know. It's hard to describe, but it's like just a mixture of the water and the sand at the edge of the ocean. It's just so it's magical in my eyes.
Yeah, to be honest.
I remember going in high school to Bolsa Chica, which is like one of the nicer beaches, and before, like maybe 20 minutes before we were packing up, I remember just like the sunset and just walking up by the shore of the beach with your shoes off and just seeing that sunset and the crashing waves. And it's very memorable, very vivid in my mind.
I probably feel the same. I probably feel the same as you. I feel like the more private or smaller beaches are so much more enjoyable.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if it probably is a combination of the two, but I want to say they're least busy and the water is a lot cleaner.
But do you have like a favorite beach you've been to?
Um, I can't remember. I want to say, I believe it's called a Thousand Steps Beach. I want to
Mm-hmm.
say it's in Newport,
Oh.
but I'm not too sure.
And
I've only,
I'm guessing you've been to like Santa Monica and like
yeah,
Santa.
I've been to Santa Monica, Huntington, Venice, and yeah, I want to say that one I enjoyed the most. I do like the beach in general, and I think it's just the feeling of relaxation that comes with it. So
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I really dislike a beach, but I did enjoy the Thousand Steps Beach, and then I went to a private beach in oh, what was it? I can't really remember. Malibu. That
Ah.
yeah, it was just very calm, very clean, just beautiful.
Did you have to pay?
No, one of my I don't remember paying. I believe we only paid for parking.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I guess yeah, technically we did have to pay, but yeah, it was very quiet. There was not too many people there, and I want to say this was last summer, so it was pre COVID and pre everything.
Mm-hmm.
It was a year ago, and it was during the summer, and I was actually really surprised to see how calm it was and not as crazy and packed as the LA beaches.
So after pretending, Nicholas tells Vivian when he went to the beach he saw a crab. I've never seen a crab though, like at a beach. Have you?
Not like the regular like red crabs. I've seen the little sand crabs. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about, but the little crabs that will
Like
come
hermit
up.
crabs?
I want to say yeah, they are hermit crabs,
Mm-hmm.
but they come up. They come up when the waves kind of go back a
Mm-hmm.
little, and you could see the bubbles in the sand. And if you dig, they're just very small crabs, but they don't look like
Mm-hmm.
the the regular red crabs you see in the
I
movies. And
think like the regular red crabs are only like on the East Coast.
oh, I thought
Or
they were like deep water, like
yeah,
deeper
cause like
ocean.
I never see them like I've never seen them at like the beaches here.
Yeah, neither have I.
So maybe like the red crabs are like geographically exclusive to different parts of the world. I really don't know. Uh, so this prompts the whole talk about crabs, which by the way, crabs are just god awful. They're awful because they are like the rats of the ocean. They will kill something and eat it. It doesn't matter what it is.
Really?
Yeah, like if there's like a dead corpse or something, they'll like all like scatter on top of it and eat it, or like they'll eat baby turtles or like stuff like that. So for me, they're like even though they're pretty delicious, they're just god awful. They're god awful. So talking about crabs though, this has Vivian take out a picture from her picture box to show Nick, and Nick recognizes the red crab in the picture, but he doesn't know what this purple thing with 8 arms is. So Vivian takes Nick to jump into the picture, And once they're inside the picture, they meet this fidgety crab that's like all paranoid, and then this like mellow octopus. And these costumes are ugly. They're just
I
they're
agree.
but then again, this is the first season, so they probably had like a really tight budget. So, but it's like, why would they put feathers on an octopus?
Yeah, and aside from that, the very extreme glittery eyelashes I thought were random too, but
Those are draglicious.
yes, absolutely.
This would probably be like a look today,
Yes, I agree.
but
And maybe for all we know, the octopus, aside from being featured in Out of the Box, maybe does drag or maybe makes
uh huh,
costumes and it's just super extra. So they felt
yeah.
that they had to put feathers on an octopus.
I just feel like if they were gonna put the feathers, it just looked like a jellyfish with the feathers on.
Yeah, I agree.
So I mean, like if they just took the feathers off, I would have been fine with the glittery eyebrows. But the feather just makes it look like a jellyfish. So yeah, so there's this paranoid crab and this like very mellow octopus, and we learn that the crab is paranoid about everything, and the octopus is just there, and he teaches the crab to just go with the flow. Um, and yeah, it's like I really don't care for when they jump into pictures. I just feel like they just do it whenever they need to fill in an episode. They
Yeah.
they don't do it every episode. They do
Yeah,
it.
and then I also noticed it was just Vivian and Nick. I'm like, what happened to everybody else? Because she says in the um, I'm not sure if I'm wrong, or correct me if I'm wrong, but
Hmm.
I want to say that she mentioned that the when they were still in the water or pretending to be in the water, she mentioned that she had a picture in her picture box, but then only Nick goes with her. I noticed.
Yeah, I guess because like, well, in the story, Dane and Cece want to play with Tony's ocean drum, but yeah, sometimes like it's like one kid, or like sometimes it's all the kids. Uh, so yeah, and so they leave the picture and tell everyone about going underwater and meeting a crab and an octopus and learning how to go with the flow. And Vivian makes up a song to help Cece and Jane understand what this crazy kid Nick is talking about.
It's music time.
So this song is called "We Go with the Flow." It's very Caribbean cruise, like Club Med, is how it sounds.
Uh huh.
Super short, but I like the chorus. Yeah, I still remember it. We go with the flow. We go with the flow.
One thing I did appreciate about the actual picture or the conversation with the octopus and the crab was
Hmm.
when the octopus points out to the crab that even when he's being paranoid and clacking around, that he's technically still going with the flow,
That's
and
true.
it kind of seems to calm the crab's anxiety a bit. So I did actually enjoy that little message.
Hmm. It's, I guess, the whole idea of going with the flow just means just to be yourself. Because the crab only knows how to, be paranoid and skittery and fidgety, and an octopus is very, mellow and stuff. So I guess going with the flow just means, be yourself
Yeah.
and such. So, but the song was just, it was super short. That's, I just wish it was just a little bit longer. They were just singing about the crab and the octopus, and then the song ends.
Yeah.
Maybe they could have talked about, I don't know, like a turtle. Um, they could have talked about a seagull. I really don't know.
Yeah, they probably just pointed out the two, obvious sea creatures because that's who they interacted with. But yeah, I do agree. It was actually a very entertaining song. So
Hmm. So after the song, Tony reiterates going with the flow using his drum. And Cece just points out that she really likes Tony's drum and wishes she had one. And Vivian gets the idea of saying that they can make their own ocean drums.
It's arts and crafts time.
So this arts and crafts is ocean drums, and I've done this with my students, and I really like it personally as an arts and craft. So they
Yeah,
get
it was very entertaining. Just a couple of just random things. I feel like the ocean drum could have used more beads
mm-hmm,
because they only do like a handful of
right.
them. So I think I probably would have wanted to do two or three.
Yeah, so they get like pie tins, they get beads, and they get like some paper and tape. And so what they do is Vivian, she flips over the top of the pie tin on top of the paper and she traces around it. And after she traces it, Tony cuts it out. But I like that Dane says, "Oh, Tony, can you cut my paper out for me?" Versus grabbing the scissors and cutting them out himself. Which, that's the one thing that they always remember to do is they always have Tony or Vivian cut the paper or whatever instead of having the kids, because then, you'll have kids seeing other kids do it and then they're just like, oh, well, if he's going to do it, then I can do it too, because, he's a kid, I'm a kid.
Right. One thing that personally, and this is just me being very observant and critical, when he asks Tony to cut his piece of paper, and Tony tells him that he'll go ahead and just do it for everyone. I noticed that when he grabs the paper, they're uneven.
Right,
So
I see that
as he's
too.
cutting the paper, and it kind of made me cringe a little bit. And again, that's just me being
Mm-hmm.
like observant and critical. They're uneven, and he's cutting them. The circles come out perfectly fine,
Yeah.
but as he's actually cutting it, you could tell that the paper is not even. And
Mm-hmm. I see that too, and I hate that. I hate having to stack papers and then cut them unless your scissors are super sharp. Don't do it, because then like the scissors, the blades will like kind of like slip a little, and then like the cuts aren't even on all of them. So maybe they're like Fiskar brand, the really
yeah,
sharp scissor brand, and so he cuts them out and he passes them out, and so they take a handful of beads with Cece like, I want to use those ones. These I know those types of kids. I work with those types of kids. They're like, no, I want to use that one. Yeah, but we're not using those. No, but I want that. I want that one. Like, but we're not using that stuff.
I don't know if it was just me, but when Cece does mention that she wants to use the other ones, for a slight second, I feel that you can see Vivian's facial expression change, almost as
Yeah,
if she's annoyed that she asked, but she says it's okay anyway.
yeah. Because Vivian's trying to get that paycheck.
Right.
She's like, paycheck, paycheck. Yeah, we can use those ones. And so they get a handful of beads and they put them in the pie tin. And so just so that way the beads don't fall out, they tape the cut circles on top of the pie tins, and so that way they don't come out. And she shows them that if you do it, tilt it slowly around, it does sound like the ocean. And I've done this with my students. Some of them use rice, some of them use like broken up noodles. Um, I've used all sorts of different shows. It's a really, like, you don't need beads. You can use like rice, or you can use other stuff like beans or stuff, and it still works the same. So it's a really easy craft. And
Mhm.
so once they're done testing them out, Nicholas realizes that you can flip it over and the paper makes a different sound, like rain sound type of thing.
Yeah, kind of like a rain stick. I did notice that.
Mm-hmm. So then Dane asks Vivian if they can use their drums to tell a story. Cece chiming in saying she knows a story about a fisherman. And Nicholas asks if they can have a crab and an octopus in her story. And Cece doesn't see why not. So Dane and Cece argue, though, about who gets to play the octopus, with Vivian, being the adult and saying, well, you can both be the octopus. But I mean, that's what I like. I like that they argue sometimes about who gets to do what. Because if this was Barney, they would be like, oh, no, 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 you can be the octopus. No, 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 I insist that you be the octopus. You're better at octopusing than I am. No, but you're dressed like, if this was Barney, that's what that would be. So,
Yeah, I agree.
she had them both play the octopus because, octopuses have 8 arms, so their 2 arms plus their two legs equal 8 appendages.
It's story time.
So the story time is Octopus in Boots, which is about a fisherman who gets saved by a crab and an octopus, and in return he offers to be their friend, and he convinces them to come home with him. And after a while, the crab and the octopus miss the ocean, so they convince the fisherman to take them back. And eventually, they remain friends by visiting each other. I feel like they made themselves dumb enough to fall for the fisherman saying, "Oh, just come live in my bathtub." It was
Right.
just I just really didn't know how to feel about the story.
Yeah, and I thought it was super random when he mentions, "Come live with me. You can live in my bathtub." Because I'm thinking, the octopus and the crab are going to agree to go with him. He's going to take them home and throw them in the pot and just eat them.
Right.
But that's what I'm thinking is going to happen. He's going to trick them into going home with him, and he's just going to eat them. But
Exactly.
he actually puts them in his bathtub.
I mean, it's a TVY show. If this was like TV Y7 or something, sure, but no. But at the same time, I feel like you're doing so. They rescue you fishermen, and you return the favor by kidnapping them and putting them in your house.
Right.
It
And they're more than happy to go.
exactly. So I mean, like, even though it's kind of like, well, what the hell, fisherman? At the same time, I'm like, well, what the hell, crab and octopus? Like, it. Like I said, I really don't. It's not a bad story, but I just really don't have much to say about it, like, at all. Once the story ends, Tony lets them know that they have to say goodbye, and Vivian takes the kids home. And Tony takes the time to remind the viewer that they can always make a pretend beach and pretend to hop over the sand, swim in the cool ocean, and even make ocean drums. And that was a day at the beach.
What stood out to me the most from this specific episode, I actually really enjoyed the actual making of the beach. So them grabbing the sheets to, set them out and pretend they were at the beach. I love that. I thought
Mm-hmm.
that was like a great idea.
Mm-hmm.
With Tony's beach or ocean drum, it really like brought that to life. So I really
Mm-hmm.
enjoyed that. Regarding the kids, probably Nick, and mostly because he was in the scene with the octopus and the crab, just himself with Vivian.
Yeah.
So he was probably more memorable. Aside from that, and this is just a random side note, I had that haircut as a child, so
Oh my
I
gosh.
feel so it was
The
kind of just
90s
him.
bull bangs.
Yes, yeah. So him like turning or being when they get back and he turns and tells the kids how excited he was. He was excited, and as he's telling the kids, about the octopus and the crab, as he's moving his head and his hair is just shaking. It just kind of brought back memories of myself as a child with that haircut. So he's probably the most memorable to me.
Mm-hmm. For me, the thing that stood out the most is probably just the ocean drum. Just because it's such a unusual thing. You don't really see that in kids shows them introduce like really odd instruments, but like in Out of the Box, Tony introduces all sorts of like drums and percussion in some episodes, like in another episode where they talk about feet, he had this thing called a talking drum, and a talking drum is like is like an African drum that when people tell stories, they use it to like illustrate like footsteps and stuff. And in this episode, they talk about an ocean drum. So that's like kind of like the really cool thing of Out of the Box is like they'll introduce all sorts of like weird instruments and stuff. Versus other kids shows where it's like, oh, bees collect honey, and they get pollen from, you get what I'm saying. It's like
Yeah.
they stick to a formula, a lot of kids shows, but Out of the Box is very experimental and like introducing like these really niche instruments, and other things to kids. That's what stood out to me with the ocean drum. Um, Besides Tony and Vivian, out of the three kids, um, out of the three, I'd say my most memorable was the same. It was Nick because, he was, very excited and he was very wide eyed and, he was acting a fool, but he didn't care about acting a fool. And the other two was just, they were just like in the background, but Dane was probably the most invisible in this episode because, you know, we're talking about Cece and Nick, and, I only mentioned Dane like once.
Yeah, and it was probably when he had mentioned to them that he wanted to also be the octopus. That's probably the only scene I remember.
Right. It's like, and they brought him back for another season. So it's like there's nothing wrong with Dane. It's just Dane was just invisible in a lot of episodes.
Yeah.
So I mean, choices. So so let's just go ahead and get to our verdict then. So let's go ahead and start with the theme. The theme of the beach. Do you feel like it's still a relevant idea, or it's something that people just don't really care to talk about?
I feel like both yes and no. I feel like obviously for people like me who enjoy the beach,
Mm-hmm.
would enjoy presenting this idea to like their children or nieces and nephews. Me personally, I have a 9-year-old niece and a 5-year-old nephew, and I
Mm-hmm.
think it would be fun to. I think it would be fun to kind of do it with them because I think that they also love the beach and
Mm-hmm.
they would probably get into it, and I will probably suggest the episode to their mom for them to see and maybe even do it with them.
Little kids are just used to, the park, their house, and school. But the beach is just this new environment that they're not familiar with. And just Tony and Vivian and the kids just, simulating it, the hot sand and the cool water and the cool sand between the ocean and the hot sand was kind of like a really great way of introducing this new environment to kids. All right, then the music. I'd say it's still catchy, it's still entertaining. You got the doggy paddle, the dive, the swim. The other song, I like the little chorus, but I just wish it was just a little bit longer. But for me, it holds up. What about you?
Yeah, I'd say the same thing. On the same comment actually about the song. If they, like you said, had extended it a bit and then maybe mentioned other, at least one or two other sea creatures.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I did enjoy that one as well.
All right, then. So the arts and crafts. Having done it and seen how it looks and how it's presented, it it's one of my personal favorite arts and crafts that I've done and seen on the show. It doesn't take too many materials, and even if you don't have pie tins, you can use like styrofoam plates, paper plates. It's a very classic, and it still holds up type of arts and crafts.
If I was personally doing the arts and crafts, like you mentioned, being able to do it with other with other things as well, I probably personally would have put out beads, beans, just different things that they could use to make the sound, even if it changes it up a bit.
Right.
Um,
All right. And then we have the story time. The story time, I feel it wouldn't hold up because it's kind of confusing. There's a lot of like holes in the story.
yeah, and it wasn't very like super memorable.
Hmm.
So yeah, I agree that it wouldn't.
Like, I'm pretty sure my niece or my nephew would just like find it kind of boring.
Yeah,
So, I guess it doesn't hold up, and I'm pretty sure it didn't hold up back then either. Um, and lastly, we have the overall performance of everyone in the episode. I'd say overall their acting is, it still gets kids' attention, especially Vivian. Vivian's definitely got that energy that a lot of kids, gravitate towards.
yeah, I agree, and I got the feel almost as if she was a teacher. I feel
Mm-hmm.
like not all teachers, of course, but certain teachers do have that. What do you call it? That sort of
Je ne sais quoi.
yeah, that. But you know what I'm talking about. I'm sure
They
that.
got it.
Yeah, that just can keep a child entertained and focused. And yeah, she definitely has that.
Yeah. Even though she had that face crack with Cece being like, I want those ones.
Yeah.
She still kept her cool, even with that face crack. And like that's what I appreciate about the show too. It's like they talk to you. They don't talk at you and say we're gonna do this and you're gonna do it with us. They're like, oh, you can join in too. Just
Yeah.
follow what we're doing. This is I'm talking to you. I'm not telling you what to do. I'm just saying you can join us.
Yeah.
So, but overall, A Day at the Beach still holds up.
Yeah, after not watching Out of the Box for well over probably 20 years,
Mm-hmm.
it was nice to kind of just dive back in and, as I said, like feel the nostalgia again as just being a child and watching this for the first time.
Make sure to leave a comment if you like what you hear. Why not subscribe? I'm on SoundCloud, YouTube, and Apple Podcast as the Box Cutter Podcast. Send me an email telling me what you like, what you don't like, what I can improve on, or any other suggestions at theboxcutter@gmail.com because it takes a village to raise something beautiful, in the words of Tony and Vivian. So long, farewell, until we meet again.
We go with the flow.